It should be on now. I will repeat my statement. We will now call the meeting of the Paratransit Coordinating Council meeting to order at 2:02 p.m. We ask now that you please give your attention to the short video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Emily, can you please conduct roll call?
Member Cooney,
Present.
Member Ibarra,
Present.
Member Nestor Brush,
Present.
Member Altanoia,
Present.
Member Thompson,
Yep.
Member Toth.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum with members Birdwell, McDonald, Sanders, Tran, and Chair Clark absent. Oh, Member Birdwell.
I'm here.
Thank you. So, apologies.
All right, we will now move to introductions of our new CCTA program manager. I'm going to let Halima introduce herself to you guys personally, but very excited to finally have Halima joining our programs team and getting us back on track here at CCTA. She brings a lot of experience and energy, so I hope you are all looking forward to working with her as I am.
Can we just nominate a chair, choose a chair to run the meeting, if that's...
You want to do that first? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone have a chair to nominate for today?
This is Vai Ibarra. I nominate Debbie Toth.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Acting Chair Toth, thank you.
And then that's it?
So from now you have the script, and after Halima provides her introduction, then you can go ahead and pick up from there.
Okie dokie. But we will pick up with Halima introducing herself. I would like to just echo the comments that were made before about her energy and our excitement around welcoming you. So welcome, and tell us who you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I have spent my career focused on designing safe, accessible transportation, and I first got involved in transportation when I was working at a nonprofit called Alliance for Girls, and we were doing advocacy in the community, and a lot of young people said they didn't feel safe on transit. And that launched me into this whole world of transportation. I worked with BART to develop the Not One More Girl initiative, which some of you may have seen if you ride BART, to tackle sexual harassment, and that became the proof of concept for state legislation on transit safety, a national model that has been cited by many transit agencies across the country. But I knew that was also the tip of the iceberg. There's so much work that we have to do in terms of making our public transportation system safe and accessible. I had the great honor of working with Drennan Shelton at MTC when I was getting my master's of public policy at UC Berkeley. And there I got to work on the transportation coordinated plan that gave me a deep dive into paratransit. And I supported MTC with identifying and prioritizing regional improvements to paratransit. I think, Rosa, you're one of the people that I spoke to or might have emailed in that process, and Mallory as well. I don't know if you remember any emails from me. And so it is great to kind of have that full circle moment of being back here in this space, being back in paratransit and accessibility. There's so much work that we have to do, right? I think when anyone who's working in this space is someone who's dedicated, because we are starting at a negative. When we look at where paratransit, where accessible transportation is. And so it's definitely a space where if you're here, you're a hard worker. We know we're in the trenches, we have to roll up our sleeves and get to it. And so I'm excited to kind of share some updates today on our programs and where we have been. Emily, I don't know if we can have our slides up, or if you want me to put those up.
If you have them,
I would have to join on Zoom.
yeah, join the Zoom.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. I wanted to share some program updates with you, and since I joined, I've been able to hit the ground running and make a lot of progress and kind of pick up on where things have left off. So let me go ahead and do that. I have to join the Zoom meeting? Yeah. Is the Zoom link in the invite? No, it's not. Okay, give me 1 second.
Recording in progress.
You should be able to accept the panelist link.
Okay.
Says rejoining.
So I wanted to share a bit about program updates and what I've been up to since I joined. And first wanted to start with grounding in nothing about us without us as a framework. Our work really comes out of disability justice work, right? Decades of movement work, organizing by people who've been directly impacted. And the way that I approach this work is by centering lived experience, working in partnership with people who are directly impacted. That is very important to how I do this work. And so I just wanted to share that as a grounding framework. The other thing I wanted to share is a refresher on the governing structure that will be utilized for implementing our accessibility work. This was designed to ensure that we have both accountability and countywide coordination for accessibility efforts. And so you might recall in 2023, the Office of Accessibility and Equity was established. So I am the staff member for that office. And then in 2024, this office was formally designated as a coordinating entity, which is responsible for implementing the Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan. And then, of course, the newly formed or to be formed Accessibility Advisory Committee will provide oversight and accountability to make sure that this work is grounded in community needs, informed by writers, advocates, operators, and providers across the county. So this will be the structure that we will be using to funnel all of our accessibility work and programs that we are going to be building out and continuing. And also just a quick refresher on the Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan. This was completed in March of 2021. It was designed with extensive community engagement and input. And it has 22 strategies that are focused on establishing multimodal accessible transportation. And the entity that is responsible for bottom lining this plan is a coordinating entity, which is the CCTA Office of Accessibility and Equity. And so just to refresh on some of the strategies to date that were established in this plan and some of the progress that we've made, there were a lot that were put in the bucket of short term, which was listed as something to accomplish within a 2-year period, and then long term, which was looking at things that will take 5 years and more. And some progress that we've made to date, the plan started in 2019. In 2021, it was completed. And then we also established a task force that would help with implementation of this, and that started in 2021. And then there were also efforts in 2022 to begin work around a countywide travel training program. In 2023, we started also working on a means-based fare program, and we also got funding for wheelchair accessible TNCs through funding for a pilot. And then in 2024, there were efforts on the San Pablo Medical Pilot Program launch. We also had our inaugural workshop that some of you probably attended for the ATSP. And we also started doing some research around a one-call, one-click program. And then in 2025, there was some pause on some of these programs. We had some changes in staffing, and so some of those projects were not really making a lot of progress. But looking forward into 2026, we definitely focus on bringing back travel training at a countywide level, having a second workshop on the ATSP, which I'll share more details on in the next few items. And looking to revamp any programs that have kind of been stalled out or paused. And so we're really excited to have this new structure of the coordinating entity with the establishment and the launch of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. All of those will really help make sure that we're able to move these programs forward and have a clear structure to do that. And so that concludes my program updates.
Do any members have questions, comments? It's a very quiet group today. Thank you for your presentation. That was comprehensive and fast. I think personally, I'm very excited to see the work being taken from a simmer to a boil again. So welcome, and I'm excited. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Is that if there's anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda, please submit a speaker card or raise your virtual hand, and staff or I will call on you. Do we have any written or remote public comment?
We have no written or remote public comments.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from July 21st, 2025. I'm willing to entertain a motion or have a conversation about that.
Move approval.
I'll second it.
Any questions, discussion? Okay, do we need a roll call on that?
Yes. Member Birdwell?
Yes.
Member Crooney?
Yes.
Member Ibarra?
Yes.
Member Nestor Brush?
Yes.
Member Altnoya?
I'll abstain. I wasn't present for the last meeting.
Thank you. Member Thompson?
Yes.
Aye, Acting Chair Toth.
Yes.
Aye, motion passes unanimously with Member Altnoya abstaining. And members McDonald, Sanders, Tone, and Chair Clark absent.
Thank you. We will now move to regular agenda items, of which we have 3. The first item is an informational item and will be presented by none other than Halima.
It is me again. So the Accessibility Advisory Committee was established to advise on matters related to accessible transportation services. This will provide input on unmet transit needs, review funding claims and applications, support implementation of the ATSP, and facilitate coordination among transportation operators, service providers, agencies, and riders. The AAC is intended to reflect a diversity of user perspectives and service categories, and also to represent individuals with lived experience. And so we have some information and updates in terms of where we are in the membership. The bylaws were discussed in previous PCC meetings, but I'll just give a quick refresher. So the AAC consists of 4 members of the public, 2 representing older adult transit riders, 2 representing persons with disabilities who are transit riders, and then 4 social service agencies, 1 serving older adults, 1 serving persons with disabilities, 1 serving persons of limited means, and 1 serving people with developmental disabilities. We also have 2 slots for human service transportation providers receiving Measure J or Section 5310 funding, and then 5 seats for each of our public transit operators for AC Transit, BART, County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, and WestCat. And then we have 1 position for the county. There's 1 voting member, and then there is a second optional ex officio non-voting member position for the county. We also have 1 position for the authority board representative. This is also an ex officio non-voting advisory member who also cannot be an elected official or serve on a transit agency board. And then we have 1 position for MTC that is ex officio non-voting. So that is a membership that will make up the AAC. And I wanted to share some updates on where we are in terms of the application process for the public rider positions. So we did a lot of outreach in hopes of getting a good candidate pool for this position. Thank you to all of you who supported us with pushing that out. Our efforts were designed to reach a broad and diverse group. So we had flyers up at senior centers. We did a lot of digital outreach, emails, and we also ran ads on Facebook and YouTube. And this allowed us to reach as many people as possible, and we received a total of 9 qualified applicants for this position. We need 4 total, right? And this also allows us to have 1 alternate for each one. And so all the applicants have been invited to interview at the APC at the February 5th meeting that is coming up. And the interviews will be conducted for about 5 minutes per applicant. And then following those interviews, the APC will select up to 4 candidates for the appointment as primary members, and they may also recommend up to 4 alternates if they choose. These recommendations will be forwarded to the authority board for ratification at the February 18th meeting. And then we anticipate that on February 23rd, we will have the first AAC meeting. And so if that is the timeline that we are on, this would be the last PCC meeting. And then we would put forward an item to our board to formally dissolve the PCC to make this transition. But I wanted to pause here if there's any questions or comments about the process. Yeah, if anyone wants to ask any questions.
Rosa, I see you heading for that microphone.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if the PCC itself was going to have an opportunity to look at these applications, or?
Yeah, so the bylaws had named for the public transit rider representatives. Those would be appointed by the authority board and must be approved by a majority vote of the APC. Once we have formed the AAC, then we will create a subcommittee for recruitment and nominations that would then be responsible for that process. So that's what the bylaws state, but if there's a request for more information, we could potentially provide that.
Were you going to follow up something else?
I wasn't going, I was debating with, mostly the challenges that we have is that we are doing something before, that involves a body before the body exists. And so it's a little bit tricky of like this first time, there isn't a direct process for inclusion of the feedback of the AAC because it doesn't exist yet. But what she's just saying is in going forward, there will be a subcommittee for nominations and recruitment. So the next round of nominations and recruitment, the AAC will have an official role in that.
So that would include all the social service agencies, human service, transportation members?
They would be able to help recruit for that,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
And so can you just, you threw out a lot of acronyms, so I want to make sure that we're unpacking them. The APC consists of,
The authority board members, and that is part of the administration and planning committee. Projects, sorry, I always get the P wrong. Administration and projects committee, and so it's a subset of our authority board.
that will be voting or appointing the members of the AAC, correct?
Yes.
The riders.
Okay. Oh, just the writers?
They have to
Because it's complicated, right? So there were open slots for older adults, there were open slots for disabled writers, there were open slots for social service agencies, but the rest of those are designated either through the transit agency themselves or CCTA or the county is appointing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the social service agencies and human service transportation providers are selected by the authority board. So the entity itself would be selected, assuming you had multiple nomination letters from multiple entities. If we only have one letter for each entity, then there isn't really anything to select. And then that agency, once we say, okay, it's between agency A and agency B, we're gonna go with agency A, they select their own individuals, so the board is not going to be involved in which individual represents or the alternates. And then for the public transit operators, for the county, for the authority board, and for MTC, they appoint their own representatives, so the board doesn't have any involvement. The only one at this stage, because of how things are set up, is that the public transit rider representatives would go through the interview process with the administration and projects committee and then be presented to the board for a final ratification.
Thank you. And you're saying that they have already submitted their applications and they're scheduled for the interview process on February 5th. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yes.
And regarding that February 5th meeting, is that an open public meeting that we could view?
Yes, the meeting is public, but I believe part of the interview process might be a closed session. Yeah.
So the APC meeting is public. The actual interviews are not closed session, and anybody could request to be in the meeting as an observer.
Yes.
Member Nestor Brush, I'm going to be better about calling names because I'm just trying to keep in mind that some people don't recognize our voices and some people don't necessarily have the same vision we do. So I'm going to try and be cognizant of that. Sorry. So Member Nestor Brush.
Do you have any sense of the geographic representation of the applicants that you've received?
That's something that will be discussed during the APC interviews. So the intention is to try to have representation across the county between the 9 candidates that we have.
Thank you.
Ooh, 9 candidates. A little more information there, huh? 9 candidates for
For the
4
rider.
different slots on there?
That's right.
What's that?
Plus alternates, so ultimately 8.
Okay. Fantastic. More than what there were available slots for. That might be a first in the PCC history, right? I guess this is the.
I was hustling.
Yeah, you were, evidently. Good job. All right. Any other questions or comments, concerns? No? Do I need to open it up for public comment at this point? All right. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, outstanding. All right, we will close this item. Thank you, Halima. And next up is the accessibility workshop update.
Yes. So I'm really excited to share that we are going to be hosting our second Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan workshop. And so the last one that we had was in 2024. And that workshop brought together transportation agencies, city programs, nonprofit, and for-profit providers, social service organizations, rider representatives, county partners, And it was focused on fostering a shared understanding, strengthening relationships, and building momentums toward coordinated implementation of the plan. So building on those prior efforts, we'll be hosting our second workshop on February 17 and 18. So it'll be a 2-day workshop. And the focus of this workshop will be to update stakeholders on progress since the adoption of the ATSP, share insights from local efforts that have been happening, different pilot programs, work to advance ATSP-related programs and initiatives, gather stakeholders for feedback to strengthen implementation, and also improve our communication and coordination among partners. This will take place in person and online, so we have hybrid options to make sure that this is accessible for folks, but we definitely are hoping to have people join us in person from 9 to 2, and it'll be hosted here at the CCTA office. And the key content of this will focus on a number of sessions. So the first day we'll have a general session to talk about the ATSP. We'll have time to also do some visioning around what the future of this could look like, what has worked well to date, what hasn't. Also to get a sense of what services currently exist, what don't exist since we've last checked in. And then we'll also have breakout sessions during the day to talk about programs like travel training, Measure J claims funds. We'll have a general session on Funding 101. So it's really intended to be a helpful space for folks to have meaningful conversation. We'll have breakfast and lunch provided, so that's an added plus of attending in person. And then some time for networking at the end and also during the lunch period. But this workshop is a critical space for us to evaluate our programs and our progress, strengthen partnerships, and start to shape the future of what the next stage of our accessible programs are going to look like in the county.
So that was all in day one, or did you add day two at the end there?
They're across
Okay.
both the days. Yeah,
Okay.
there'll also be a session on the LAFA fund that has been for wheelchair accessible TNC, a session on emergency evacuation planning and preparedness, and how do we do that in a way that's accessible. I think those are some of the big ones. We'll also be talking about Optimat, which is also our next item, so I'll share more details about that.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions or comments? Still a very quiet group today. Thank you very much for that, and we will open it up to public comment at this point to see if there are any public comments.
We have no public comments, written or verbal.
Okay, thank you. Closing out this item, and we're going to be moving on now to the last regular agenda item, which is an update on the integrated open data platform for multimodal accessible transportation. No wonder they call it Optimat. All right, take it away, Halima.
It is a mouthful. Some of you have either been invited or have been part of some of the discussions we've been having this month, but Optimat is a behind-the-scenes coordination platform that is focused on improving how accessible transportation information is shared and accessed across multiple providers. So it establishes an open system that will deliver real-time information for folks on accessible transportation modes. So if any of you have ever used a Google Map or the Transit app, you probably noticed that it does not have information about accessible transportation services. And so if you think about what Optimat would create, it would be like a Google Maps, but for accessible transportation. And as we know, right now, information is spread across many systems. People who are looking to access services have to call a lot of different agencies. They have to go to different websites, and they have to contact a lot of different people before they get information on where a service is going to go, when it's going to go, and if they are qualified to ride that service. And so Optimat is looking to bring all of this together in a single platform where a user can search and say, I want to go to this location at this time. I'm a senior, or I am ADA qualified. And then they will get a list of, here are 3 providers that can take you there. This is their cost. It's an information and referral service essentially, but it does not book trips. It does not do scheduling or anything like that. So it would simply say, here's 3 agencies, here are their numbers and emails. And then the rider would then know who to call and where to go to get the service they need. And this platform can be used by many groups, right? Our main audience is going to be folks who need accessible transportation. So people who have disabilities, people who are seniors, veterans, It could be anyone who's new to the area or someone who's looking to travel into an area that they haven't traveled to before. It could be someone whose circumstances have changed. Maybe they were only qualified for senior services, but now they're also qualified for ADA services. And so that's the primary user group. And then the secondary group are agency staff, call center representatives, community organizations. So anyone who has a number that is receiving calls from riders and saying, hey, do you go to this place at this time? And so that staff person can also use the software to quickly look up and give information. So instead of having to say something like, sorry, we don't go there, call so-and-so, you can kind of say, well, even though we can't take you, we can refer you to the right person. It can also be used by caregivers or folks who are supporting people that are looking for accessible transportation. And then we would partner with our transit agencies, with service providers, anyone, volunteer programs, anyone who's providing a service, to collate information in one place so that the data that the software is using is real time and up to date. Yeah, so right now we're in stage 1 of the project, which is really focused on developing a prototype to see if this is possible. This is not a common tool that exists in the United States. I think there might be one other model that has been developed in the United States. So this is a fairly complicated project, but we're hoping we can develop a viable prototype in stage 1 that will show that this is possible and that all these different systems can talk to each other, be it a spreadsheet or be it a more complicated and sophisticated software. But I'm curious if folks have any questions about this and if I can share more.
Thank you, Halima. I am curious to hear from our transit providers because I know there was a lot of questions in the beginning. So I'm very curious to hear from you where you are on this. Rob, take it away.
Sure. So I was going to make the comment anyway. I think the difference in the presentation that with the transit operators got from Halima and Danielle a couple of weeks ago was kind of night and day from what we got in the past. So I think the 3 transit operators are myself, Kind Connection, Tridelta are in the room, and I think we all felt a lot more confident that we saw a product that had potential. I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered. There's a lot of technical issues that seem very, very challenging, but I think the approach, where it was presented was much more palatable and much more kind of, okay, I can see why this would be of a benefit to things. So I think it is an acknowledgement that even though we've been quiet on this project for the last 18 months, 2 years, obviously some work's been done in the background to really fine-tune what the final product might look like and what it might come out to. So I think we were a lot happier.
So am I hearing you correctly that your feedback was heard by CCTA and brought to the table in the incorporation of where we are today? Dare I
guess
say?
I can't say that. That's for someone else to say, but maybe it felt that way, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Rosa, I know you weren't necessarily at this table at the time that all that was going on, but wanting to hear from you and Mallory, if you wouldn't mind, how you guys are feeling about it.
I was reading the first page, and I think it's nice that you bolded, does not replace existing transportation. Right. I think that was initially a concern prior, maybe even a year ago, I can't recall. Feedback I got from my boss, John Sanderson, was that he felt a little bit more at ease at whatever was discussed at the last meeting regarding Optimat. So I second, the sentiment that Rob just spoke about. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Mallory? Sorry, Member Nestor Brush.
Oh, Mallory's fine. We would echo, we were not a party to the concerns that WestCat and 3CTA expressed, but certainly I don't, nobody's going to replace East Bay Paratransit Broker Call Center, so we appreciate that effort. And I guess I'd be curious, because we received grant funding years ago to beef up our INR, the 211 system in Alameda County. And so they are the resource. We updated their website, includes a lot of transportation information. And of course, we had them deprioritize at East Bay Paratransit because we were always the first one that popped up. And so I'm curious as to how you're going to interact with that. How much money does the county spend on the 211 system? Because most folks will go to that because it's just a normal habit. Call 211 for information, senior, disabled. So I'd just be curious to hear about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in the packet that you have, there's a handout. That was the handout that we shared at the 3 focus groups that we are conducting this month. We have one more left, and it convenes all the agencies, providers, folks who are offering any type of service to come together. And so that packet has a little bit more. And it sounds like you're speaking to like the aspect of it where you have a call number or a call center and how this would connect to that. Is that right?
No, just in Contra Costa County. I know Alameda County's 211 system is robust.
Yeah.
Contra Costa is not. So is that information going to be usable by the 211 system?
Yes, it can be usable. It can be used by any call center or anyone who's getting inquiries. So this would really be the backbone for a lot of different programs. If we were to look into, again, like the one call, one click program, that was part of the ATSB recommendations. This would also be the backbone to that. So whoever's picking up the phone has accurate information and can easily look up and give information to the person who's calling.
Think of Optimat as kind of the back-end inventory of all the different programs that exist. So anyone within our government system would be able to access and see, given this eligibility, given this location, given this parameters, what services are available. So you want it to be it's solving all the back end so that any front end system can integrate with every other system.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me your feedback, and thank you for the presentation. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes. So I appreciate the information and referral portion of this. I'm looking right now in the document how Optimat works. A rider enters a trip request via website, app, or by calling. So I appreciate that there are multiple ways for riders to access this information. Then, step number 2, step number 3. Step number 4, the rider books directly with the provider. So for any riders for whom their provider doesn't communicate with them in a way that they need to be communicated with, those riders are just as stuck before and after use of Optimat. So that is really just more a comment to any of the providers who are communicating with the community to help ensure that they're able to communicate in a variety of ways based on what their array of riders might need. And that's something that's come up here in public comments, and so I'm sort of just raising it back up again.
A really important part of this system that we're trying to build into it is the back-end feedback loop so that we capture those to identify where the gaps are and what is missing either from system or programs so that we can address those gaps. So we see that as just as an important critical piece of this project.
Thank you. I think you're identifying what they refer to in the Bartland as the last mile, right? So this is a last mile that doesn't get solved for. So you get the information you need, but you don't get the warm handoff to the space. And so that may be an area that we have to work on, yes?
Yeah, the last mile figuratively, not literally. And I think it's easy to feel like, oh no, Optimat, you can app or website or call, but then follow the step and follow the step and follow the step. So yeah, exactly. Figuratively, the last mile to actually get them through that figurative door. Yeah.
So we have highlighted that. Thank you for that. Any other comments or feedback from staff on it? No? All right. Any other comments or feedback from the group? Nope. All right. Any public comments on this item?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, outstanding. Then we are going to conclude our regular agenda items and move on to reports. East Bay Paratransit Access Committee. Does anyone who attended the most recent East Bay Paratransit Access Committee meeting want to provide a report?
I will briefly. This is Mallory with AC Transit. We met on January 6th. We have some leadership issues with our contractor Transdev at the broker call center. We lost our general manager in October. Jasher Nolan, the AGM, stepped up, but Jasher has now unfortunately accepted a job with Bart, which is crazy, but anyway, so we are transitioning between leadership at the call center. We are in the middle of a new software upgrade. We are replacing 25-year-old legacy software with a new platform, Spare. So we are completed our first user accepted testing. We will be doing dry runs this weekend and hope to cut over and go live mid-April. So that is the big event.
So no sleep for you.
Not me. I'm lucky to open my email.
You get
They
to let
keep me
somebody
far
else do it.
away from the
Okay.
equipment.
Yes, okay. Transitions are always a lot of fun. Thank you for the report out. For Senior Mobility Action Council, I understand Jim Donnelly is on the line, and I'm wondering if he can unmute and provide us an update for SMAC.
Mr. Donnelly, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Pardon me, I had someone else in the room for a moment and I didn't what was the question directed toward me, Debbie?
If you could provide a report out on the last meeting of the Senior Mobility Action Council?
Actually, unfortunately, the last meeting of the Senior Mobility Action Council was not held because of, there was not a quorum. There was a misunderstanding with county staff on what was required for a quorum, so the meeting was canceled.
How exciting. You have another meeting scheduled coming up when?
I believe that's what they call it for, February, I want to say 6th.
And that's from 1 to 3?
I think that's what it is. Yes, I'm scanning my emails right now, Debbie.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Let's see.
I just think that the chair of SMAC slightly moved when the meeting is, so I wanted to make sure that that was in our record. So I apologize for the delay there. I should have had the time for you.
Just a second. I know it's here somewhere.
I had planned on texting him during this meeting so he would have the information, but you guys made me chair, so I had work to do during the meeting. Well, Jim, we can come back to it if you have it at the end of the meeting. I'll let you keep looking. Thank you for that. I appreciate you doing that.
I'll look it up and raise my hand.
Outstanding. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Yep.
Okay, so next we have correspondence and communications. We don't have any correspondence in the packet. Have we received any communication since the packet went out?
We have not.
Okay, so future agenda items. Now moving on to future agenda items. If there are any topics that members, that's kind of odd since we are not going to exist after today, right? Okay, we'll get to that. Hold, please. I'll read the whole thing instead of just the first sentence and having a thought. Okay. If there are any topics that members would like to have agendized for a future Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, please raise your hand. Yes, Vi.
I would like, as a member of this committee, or possibly a future AAC committee, to know who's in the audience virtually. We can see if there is or isn't a crowd in the room, and I would like to at least know, at the very minimum, the number of people that might be on virtually. Even better would be if we had a way of seeing the names that people choose to share. So if there's a way to incorporate that into the agenda as an announcement that happens at the beginning of the meeting, or a way for it to show on our screen that we see here in the room, I think that it would be helpful for any committee who's representing the community in some kind of way to know what community might be taking the time out of their day to participate on this call and watch the work that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other future agenda items for the AAC? I know that it's going to come up at the 2 days of workshops on the ATSP, but I would really love to hear from the transit providers about the programs in the AAC, launching that meeting by talking about what progress has been made on the ATSP, the successes they've had and the challenges they've had, just to kind of ground the work and here's where we are and where we need to move forward. So that's my 2 cents I would love to see in there. I don't see anybody else with hands raised, so I will ask if there is any public comment that people would like to make for future agenda items.
We have no public comment, written or virtual, but Mr. Donnelly's hand is raised.
So he may know the answer to the question. All right, Jim.
See, you can hear me now, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, the chair of the committee called for a special meeting on the 2nd of February from 12:30 to 2:30.
On February 2nd?
Yeah.
And that will be at 500 Ellenwood Way, or?
I don't have the location here in front of me, just the time of the meeting.
Okie dokie.
Right. But almost all of them are at 500. All of our meetings are at 500 Ellenwood.
Okay. That's the county offices in Pleasant Hill. So folks can come if they want to join the SMAC meeting. All right, and since are there still no other hands or comments at this point?
We have no further comments or hands raised.
Okay, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I think I deserve a medal. It is 2:45, and that is the quickest paratransit coordinating council in the history of recently. All right, thank you all for being here. Meeting adjourned. Oh. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.